Garrison certainly had it nailed. They just made him a crazy.
Yeah, they're the ones who are actually telling the truth.
Thank you, sir.
You got
and
that.
I know much.
Oh, okay.
I guess he went.
I heard him say thank you, sir.
I was going to ask him a question. I was going to ask him a question. I was going to ask what was their attitude towards John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
And since the Civil Air Patrol is so closely connected to the military, and I guarantee at that time, being a grown man in Texas and already a journalist, that among most of the military people, most of the intelligence people, they not only disliked Kennedy, but many of them saw him as a threat because he was soft on communism.
Yep, and I also think the Federal Reserve thing had a lot to do with it.
A lot. Kennedy in June of 1963 issued $4.2 billion in currency, but not through the Federal Reserve System, to which we have to pay interest. He issued it through the Treasury Department as United States notes, and that was just money that we generated, and we didn't have to pay interest on it. And George, he became only the second president in U.S. history to issue interest-free money, and the first one was Abraham Lincoln when he issued the greenbacks to finance the war between the states. And I don't think that it's just sheer coincidence that both of those men were shot in the head in public.
Brooklyn we go. Bruce in New York. Go ahead, Bruce.
Hey, how are you tonight? First, I want to say, George, you've done an awesome job with Coast to Coast.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
I mean, really, really great. Getting to Jim Morris, I called up originally to ask you about a chapter in your Fourth Reich book about the treasure trove, because the mystery of René Le Chateau has always really fascinated me, and I had never known that Otto Skorzeny and the Nazis basically ended up getting all that whatever was actually there is pretty much, I guess, in their hands. I just wanted to know how did you connect yourself to that to that story? How did you find out about it? How did how did that information come to you? Because I'd never I've been following that for a while, and I never knew that. Also, I have another going to JFK. What do you know about Ruth Paine? Her name, I know that there's a lot to ask here, but she's someone who sort of was a kind of a mysterious figure in the JFK assassination thing, and I just wanted to know if you think that she had any hidden connections, and I'll just I put that on the table, and I guess I'll just listen to your answer. And thanks a lot.
Okay, I'll back into it. Start with Ruth Paine. Through her family, she was connected to U.S. intelligence. Excuse me.
Okay, Jim?
I'm sorry.
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, of course, that's just one of numerous connections to U.S. intelligence that permeates the whole JFK story. Sorry.
That's all right. Go get some water. Walk over there, pick up a little water, and
then as far as I like the caller. I've been fascinated with the whole story of Rennes Le Chateau ever since I read that book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Yes.
And I even made a trip to France and went to Rennes Le Chateau and found out all kinds of interesting things, such as the mountain down there that continually, no matter how clear the sky, there's always a cloud over the top of this mountain. And I said, what's with that? And all the locals said, oh, that's where the ships go in and out. What? But yes, and that's when I got onto the story about the fact that Solomon's treasure was looted from Jerusalem by the Romans, of course, during the Jewish revolt of 70 AD, and when Jerusalem was sacked, and they took a good portion of Solomon's treasure back to Rome, where 400 years later, when Alaric the Goth sacked Rome, he carried the treasure back to his home grounds, which was the Languedoc region of southern France, right where Rennes Le Chateau is. Excuse me. And then the Templars, Knights Templars, uncovered the rest of Solomon's treasure that had been hidden away under the old Temple of Solomon, which by then had become the palace of King Herod.
See, I think somebody somewhere, Jim, has a lot of this treasure. They've got it tucked away somewhere, and they're keeping it. And, it's probably one of the rich bankers of the world. Who knows?
But there was a Colonel Howard Buckner who was the medical officer for one of the infantry divisions during World War II. And he picked up the information that in March of 1944, Otto Skorzeny, the famous Nazi commando, led an expedition to the Languedoc region, and on March the 16th, he sent a one-word telegram back to Berlin that stated, "Eureka! We found it." So the Nazis recovered Solomon's treasure, which not only explains how they were able to survive the war with the loot of Europe to possibly include Solomon's treasure of gold, silver, precious stones, but also this ancient knowledge of technology, which may have given them a leg up in some of the more fabulous scientific breakthroughs that they made during the war.
Absolutely. Next up, let's go to our first-time caller in Los Angeles. Joe, you're on Coast to Coast with Jim Mars. Hey, Joe, go ahead.
Hello, how are you?
We're fine, Joe. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Jim, it's an honor to speak with you. I've read your book.
Which one?
Oh, well, I read your book, Rule by Secrecy, and I just bought your other book, The Rise of the Fourth Reich. And back on the Kennedy assassination, I understand that President Kennedy, he signed Executive Order 11110, which essentially provided for the issuance of, I guess it was silver-backed notes, or essentially money that was issued by the U.S. government.
Yes, United States notes.
Right, and the way I understand it is that executive order was rescinded by Johnson almost immediately after President Kennedy was assassinated.
Let both of you hold for just a second. We'll be back with final phone calls with Jim Mars. Go take a quick break, Jim. We'll be back with you in just a moment.